Hello, everybody. Hello, members of the committee, members of the public, staff, media. So this is the 2025 Budget Conference Subcommittee for Public Protection, Criminal Justice, and the Judiciary. We're going to introduce the members that are here. If there are people that want to say a couple of words, certainly they'll be welcome to. We'd appreciate it if people try to keep their remarks a minute or under, being that there are so many of us here. So I'm Assembly Member Jeffrey Dinowitz, and I am the Chair of the Assembly Codes Committee, and I'm also Chair of the Public Protection Subcommittee. And I'd like to introduce our fellow Assembly members, Assembly Member Charles Levine, who is Chair of the Assembly Judiciary Committee, Assembly Member Eric Delon, Chair of the Corrections Committee, Assembly Member John McDonald, Chair of the Governmental Operations Committee. We also have Democratic alternates, Edward Gibbs, Monique Chandler Waterman. We have on the minority side, Assembly Member Phil Palmisano and Assembly Member Andrea Bailey. Senator Myrie.
Thank you, Assembly Member Dinowitz, my fellow co-chair. I'm State Senator Zelner Myrie, co-chair of the Joint Budget Committee on Public Protection, Criminal Justice, and Judiciary. And I'd like to introduce the following senators that have joined us: Senator Julia Salazar, Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel, Senator Sepulveda, and Senator Tom O'Mara. I will now go over the Joint Budget Subcommittee guidelines. Co-chair shall determine all matters of parliamentary procedure unless otherwise specified by these rules. Any dispute with regard to procedure that cannot be resolved by the co-chair shall be referred back to the General Conference Committee and shall be resolved by the co-chairs of the General Conference Committee. Co-chair shall designate a staff person to serve as secretary for purpose of taking minutes. An alternate may participate in a subcommittee meeting, but shall not vote upon any deliberations of such subcommittee unless he or she has been designated to fill an excused vacancy in such subcommittee. Such designation shall be made by the co-chair of the General Conference Committee, representing the House in which the excused vacancy exists. If such vacancy is in a minority seat on the subcommittee, then the designation shall be made upon the recommendation of the respective House's minority representative of the General Conference Committee. Such designation shall be made as soon as practicable by the appropriate co-chair by providing notice to the other co-chair of the General Conference Committee. An excused absence in the General Conference Committee may be filled by temporary designation of member by the co-chair of the General Conference Committee representing the House in which the excused vacancy exists. No subcommittee members or alternate members shall be permitted to participate via proxy. Subcommittees shall restrict their deliberations to their respective subject areas as determined by the General Conference Committee. Any issues which are determined to be non-germane by the co-chair shall be referred back to the General Conference Committee. Each member shall be permitted a reasonable period of time, as determined by the co-chairs, to discuss any matter germane to the subject area of the subcommittee. No report shall be filed upon the affirmative vote of a majority of the members of each House's delegation on the subcommittee. Brandon Bernard will serve as the recording secretary for the Senate. And back to you, Mr. Co-Chair.
I'd like to introduce Hannah Gauthier as the recording secretary for the Assembly. Now, before we go on, there may be a couple of members who feel the need to say a few words. So I would, are there any on our side, the Assembly majority? No.
And for the Senate?
Majority.
Majority members? Anyone? Hearing none.
Anybody in the Assembly minority that would like to say a word or two?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Both chairs appreciate the opportunity. Just a couple things I wanted to touch on. Some we're concerned about, some positive at the end I'll share. Certainly, the 5 prison closures we have strong opposition to, especially in 90 days. That's an insult and a slap in the face to the dedicated individuals who work a dangerous job. Will not help with morale or certainty with their jobs, especially with recruitment and retention efforts. Keeping in mind our county jails have hundreds of state-ready incarcerated individuals who are waiting to be placed in our state facilities. They need space. Keeping in mind that the prison population is actually increasing, not decreasing. The death gamble We passed it twice. The governor vetoed it twice, said it needs to be in the budget. Why it's not in the budget, I don't know. We don't know. It would protect pensions and help with retention, not providing tools and resources and restricting tools and resources to keep our officers safe and incarcerated safe. It's really from the prison closures to not providing tools, drug dogs at every facility, scanners, effective mail and package screening to keep the drugs out. Also, we've talked about HALT, which I know is not being acted upon, but the ability to segregate the most dangerous individuals from the rest of the general population has really led to a dangerous powder keg environment. It was brought our facilities to a tipping point. Just the 3 years since it's been implemented, incarcerated assaults on staff has increased 76%. Incarcerated assaults on incarcerated has increased 169%, and contraband coming to our facilities has increased 32% over that time. Certainly, bail reform. Again, once again, nothing there. We're the only state in the nation that does not allow judicial discretion to consider dangerousness. Relative to discovery, we're disappointed the majority didn't accept the modest changes proposed by the governor. Some of these policies we're concerned continue to put the scales of justice in favor of more violent individuals versus public safety, crime victims, and law enforcement. On the positive side, real brief, we are supportive of the Volunteer Firefighter Grant Infrastructure and Equipment Program. I will caution my colleagues here to look at the language because it says that you have to pay up front. That might make it more difficult for rural, poorer communities to do that, especially on a first-come, first-served basis. So I'd ask you to look at that language to make sure we can help those individuals in those communities. And finally, we are supportive of the Executive and Senate relative to the eliminating correction officer residency requirements and removing the age caps for police officers. We believe this will certainly help with recruitment and retention in the future. So those things that we support, and obviously I talked about the things we are opposed to. So thank you, both chairs, for your time and letting us speak on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmisano. So, okay.
With apologies, the chair of the Crime Victims, and Corrections Committee, Senator Salazar, wishes to offer some remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to make just a couple of remarks about what has been included in the executive budget, which was accepted at least by the Senate in our one House budget resolution. One is the the authorization for the governor to close up to 5 correctional facilities in this upcoming fiscal year on a shorter timeline than is normally permitted in statute. I support this proposal, and I'm grateful that there is support from the majority for this proposal. It is important that that facilities be adequately staffed and that they are able to operate efficiently, and that is the motivation behind closing facilities in order to consolidate. In New York State, we actually have a higher than average compared to other states ratio of correction officers to incarcerated individuals. Additionally, we have seen a very substantial decrease in the incarcerated population in recent decades. And it is clear that it would really be in the interest of public safety and also prison safety for us to responsibly close these facilities. I'll also add on the note of the HALT Solitary Confinement Act, which is not addressed in this budget. If it were fully implemented, it would be in the interest of safety of both staff and everyone else, incarcerated individuals in facilities. Unfortunately, we know from the Inspector General's report from August of last year, as well as from official visits that legislators conduct to correctional facilities, that the HALT Solitary Confinement Act has actually not been fully implemented, even though it should have been over the past nearly 4 years since it became law. So I look forward to us addressing that, but not in this budget. Anyway, thank you, Chair. Appreciate the opportunity.
We will now recognize Senator O'Mara.
Thank you, Chairman. Just an opportunity to follow up a bit and reiterate some Assemblyman Palmisano's concerns, which I share, but we're missing a significant opportunity here in this budget while we're discussing prison closures. I would point out that just a week or two prior to the correction officers going on strike because of the dangerous working conditions there, the Commissioner of Corrections testified that there was no need for prison closures in this year's budget. And then following the strike, I believe in the governor's 30-day amendments, there was a vindictive addition of closing 5 prisons in this budget. I certainly oppose that. While I agree with Senator Salazar that inmate populations are down over decades, they are currently increasing. The working conditions and the living conditions of the inmates in the prisons is abysmal. It's dangerous for both the inmates and the staff working in our prisons, and we're doing nothing in this budget to fix that, despite even this afternoon in Senate session passing another workplace safety bill, which we seem to do almost every other day in the Senate, yet nothing to make the working conditions safer in our prisons for that. The legislature has rejected the governor's slight improvement to the discovery laws. Where is justice for victims when upwards of a third of cases, criminal cases, prosecutions are being dismissed on very technical violations of the discovery law, which the governor has attempted to ameliorate in her proposed executive budget? We should be looking at that to improve that, because there is no justice when it's just one-sided. We do everything in this body to look out for the criminal, for the accused and their rights, which is very important, but also the victims of crimes are equally as important, and no one gets justice when a charge is dismissed on a mere technicality. And we should be adding to that in this budget. Thank you, Chairman.
So the agencies that we will be discussing at this joint Public Protection Conference Committee include, for the Judiciary, the Office of Court Administration, Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, Division of Criminal Justice Services, Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, Office of Indigent Legal Services, Department of Law, Commission on Judicial Conduct, Division of Military and Naval Affairs, Office of Prevention of Domestic Violence, Division of State Police, Office of Victim Services. So we look forward to collaborating with the Senate and the Executive to secure critical funding for public safety in New York. Our priorities include enhancing security in the subways and the commuter hubs, supporting community violence intervention programs, funding rape crisis centers, and expanding resources for gun violence prevention, parental representation, and defense services. Additionally, we aim to invest in alternatives to incarceration, residential stabilization for formerly incarcerated individuals, capital improvements for volunteer fire departments, and loan forgiveness for prosecutorial and defense attorneys. Through these initiatives and various policy proposals, we are committed to creating a greater, safer New York.
We look forward to working with the Assembly and the Executive on increasing vital funding for restorative justice, domestic violence, legal services, parental representation, and gun violence prevention, fire department grants, and alternatives to incarceration programs. We also look forward to discussing the inclusion of the Challenging Wrongful Convictions Act, establishing the Office of Gun Violence Prevention within the Division of Criminal Justice Services, and supporting the expansion of statewide supervision visitation programs.
Okay, so our wonderful staff, in consultation with members, are going to continue to work through the various issues that we all have, and hopefully we will get everything done and done soon and come to the right conclusion, which again is a safer New York. Thank you all.
Thank you.